Welcome to the Career Metis podcast. I'm your host, Nisar Ahmed. I'm the founder and editor of the blog careermetis.com, and this is episode 35 of the podcast. And this episode is part of what I call a day in the life of series of interviews. So in each of these episodes, I conduct interviews with individuals from a particular career. And for today's episode, I'm speaking with a music and nightlife marketer, and our guest's name is Louie La Vella. So Louie will be sharing his experience, how he got started in this profession, where he stands today, some of the benefits, some of the challenges of the job and career itself, and also some advice for anyone getting into the field. So let's get started with the interview. So, hey Louie, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show. And thanks to everybody out there taking some time to listen. This is great.
It's great to have you, and I'm excited to learn more about your career. I don't think it's usual for someone to come across someone who is in your profession, music and nightlife marketer. People go to all these events, but they don't necessarily see what happens behind the scenes, what is involved. I'm excited particularly to learn more. So why don't you start us off, Louie, by a quick introduction of yourself?
Great. Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, again for listening. My name is Louie La Vella. And like you mentioned, I'm a music and nightlife marketer. So what that means is I work in the entertainment industry, music specifically, to help produce and market right now large scale events like concerts and festivals. I also work with a lot of large nightclub venues around the world, all over the United States, UK and Canada, Australia as well, some in Europe, and consult them on their events as well. And I also work with record labels and musicians trying to expose their music and their brand, do album launches and music single launches, things like that. So it's a pretty fun, a little bit of a cool, wide music entertainment career for me. And it's been a fun ride. I've been doing it for 20 years since I was a teenager and started out as a nightclub promoter, quickly moved up into radio and television, right to where I am today, a worldwide consultant and speaker. And it's been really, really fun.
That's great to hear, Louie. So I'm very curious. How did you start becoming a nightlife or a music promoter, a marketer? So what is your story? How did you get here?
Yeah, absolutely. So fun story. So way back when, I was about 17, 18 years old. Everybody has that part-time job. You work in grocery or retail, or maybe you're a bartender if you're old enough, when you're in college, that kind of thing. So I had my part-time job really, apart from something small in grocery, I also worked as a nightclub promoter. So I noticed on radio and the newspaper a VIP card that got you into 10 different clubs in the area, Toronto, Stoney Creek, Niagara Falls area. So I'm up in Canada. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm not old enough to get into the bars yet, but this is a great idea. All ages clubs maybe are involved, things like that. But I wanted to get into the nightclub business because it was cool. People wanted to do bartending and maybe a bouncer if you're big enough and whatnot. But I thought, I'm not really a bartender or a bouncer, but the business end, I have a good business sense. So this is great. So I contacted them, wanted to buy one, but also I wanted to know if they needed somebody to help sell the card. I thought it was pretty neat. I get to get in for free. Maybe I'll get to meet the owners, get some more perks. And they said, yeah, absolutely. So I met them. And right away, they, love my personality. I jumped into their business. Within that first meeting, I said, what if I knocked on some more doors, some more nightclub doors, and got more nightclubs onto this VIP card? They said, yeah, it's fantastic. We're very busy. If you can do that too, fantastic. So that's kind of where I started in the nightclub industry. I worked with them. I quickly, as I was knocking on nightclub doors, I was able to forge relationships with nightclubs. And with that said, just being a part of this VIP card was okay. It was a cool entry point, but I knew I wanted to help produce actual events, actually promote events. So right away, within the first couple of weeks, I was starting to work with some of the hottest clubs in the region and working under some of the head promoters, quickly kind of building my own list and now taking over my own events from there. So that's how I got started really into this business.
So sounds like one of those accidental careers. You just bumped into it. You saw this was a great fit. Then you just forged ahead.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been, entertainment industry, as everybody knows, is a very, cutthroat, shark infested kind of waters type of industry. And so you got to take shots. If there's something that you want to do and you think, man, this is going to be a fun career path or fun pivot, you really have to take shots. You have to just open doors yourself. Most of the time, doors are not open for you in the entertainment industry. It's kind of made that way to have people quit, right? So it filters out just the final people that don't give up and make it. And so right from the beginning, I've kind of learned that I need to make my own doors beside it and maybe break those open instead. And that's kind of been a great mentor to go by through my entire career here. Just build my own doors beside it.
I think that's a great quote, and it has a lot of meaning right there. So thanks for sharing that quick tidbit there. So the next question is, Louis, what does a day-to-day look like for someone doing what you're doing right now? What is the typical day?
Absolutely. I mean, it could differ greatly depending on which client I'm working with, and sometimes much more busier than other days. But a typical day is, I'll get up in the morning, obviously not too early because I'm always up very late, just the way my body's now attuned to my sleep patterns. Say hi to the fam, have a quick breakfast, get on social media right away, take a look at my own personal brand, see what's going on with engagement, and start to take a look at my clients' brands as well, whether they're festivals, nightclubs, musicians, things like that. Keep an eye on what's been going on overnight and what's happening in the morning now. Then I'll start getting into looking at the advertising. I'm very heavily involved in the advertising aspect of all the digital brands, which is, Facebook, Instagram ads, taking a look at stats from Snapchat filters, that kind of idea. And then, might take a quick little break there and then come on back with some creating content. So, okay, what's going out in this week's posts? What content do I need? So do I need my designers to create some new content for the upcoming days, or if something, happens overnight or today that's timely that I need to talk about, I create content over that. I might be I book like 3 or so podcasts a week now for myself, personal branding wise. So I might have a podcast scheduled as well that day. And not every day, but either I'll get on a Skype call with clients or answer them via email and text message. Or if they're local, I'll be having a quick meeting with them as well, just in person. But for the most part, my clients are all over the world. I don't have too many in Canada, 3 clients actually in Canada. The rest are worldwide. So I have the luxury of taking my meetings via Skype, or they quickly chat with me via text or WhatsApp, which is fantastic. It's definitely on our own time and terms, and that makes a pretty cool lifestyle. And, go through your dinners and your night times. If there's no meetings, when everybody's in bed, I'm watching YouTube keynotes and learning and watching webinars just to learn more things about internet marketing and what's new out there. And usually in my bed doing that, and have my phone beside me, also working on social media and making sure everything's going great and growing. And that's it, man. Probably hit actually fall asleep around 2 or 3 in the morning.
Wow, it sounds like never a dull day. There's always something going on.
Absolutely. And in some of those days get way more exciting than others. Like I mentioned, every day is different. And sometimes you're talking with celebs. Sometimes you actually have events upcoming. So you're on site and building a festival, staging, and just keeping an eye on what's going on there. Yeah. So, every day is definitely quite different, and it's very exciting.
So one thing I wanted to segue from pattern of the interviews, you mentioned the word celebs, and I went to your website. I saw something about Lady Gaga and you being one of the first few people to interview her. So I'm sure people are all of a sudden now there are more people interested in hearing about this. So tell me more about that piece on your website.
I was on television for about, I think, 7 or 8 seasons, 7 or 8 years. Music TV, kind of like an MTV idea. So I was a producer, executive producer, and a host. So several different shows, whether they're music video countdowns or interview shows or following events. In this particular one right here with Lady Gaga, I was in Miami. I was covering the Winter Music Conference and Ultra Festival, which is a huge electronic dance music festival, and interviewing a ton of celebrity DJs. David Guetta, Dead Mouse, all those fun characters. And I was at a private penthouse suite party. XM Radio was there having a party with Armani Exchange, and I was there with my cameraman, producer, and we were doing interviews. It was great, right? It was a very small, unique party. There's about 80 or 70 of us there, including the celebrities. So it was a great opportunity to interview. And so I was doing an interview, and I was in between one, just chatting with some PR people, and somebody came up to myself and my producer and said, "Hey, I have this new girl that just got signed to Interscope, like literally a few weeks ago. And she's now here. She's releasing her music. And then, of course, we look forward to her exploding over the summer. And this was March. So a few months before she really exploded, and they said, we're trying to get as much PR as we can. We'd love to get her first TV interview as Lady Gaga. Do you have time to do it? And I'm thinking, man, I think I had David Guetta interview lined up within like a half hour. I'm thinking, we've done a bunch of new person interviews already. We don't really have time, but I'm like, I'm always here to, I'd like to help and expose as much as I can. And I said, let's hear the songs. And it Just Dance, of course, and Paparazzi were the songs she was about to release. And she was going to perform, just her and her DJ kind of idea, on the penthouse patio there within the hour. So I'm like, oh, cool. Maybe we can get a little performance too. Like, yeah, okay, let's do the interview. So lucky I said yes, of course. Hindsight now says, man, if you said no, that would have been a terrible story to tell. And yeah, I sat down on the rooftop of the penthouse suite there, did the interview with her. Fantastic person, super smart, lovely. She obviously exploded within like 2 months after the interview was done. And our interview didn't actually air until the new season came out, which was September. So even though I got that first interview out as Lady Gaga, she exploded. Obviously, her Interscope and their PR machine really did their job, and she has some great talent anyway. So she was on her way up, but it was a fantastic interview to have had.
So the moral of this story, this particular story, is you never know who you might bump into. And
never know.
And it doesn't hurt to say yes.
Yeah, because you never know. It's great to, when you're in your own industry, to kind of have, like for me, for music, obviously, having the ear and maybe some sort of insight as to what could be big, perhaps, which is really, that's something A&R reps, the people who try and find new talent for the record labels try and have, like, who's going to be the next big thing. So even in my position, it was like, this actually might be someone who might explode. Just everything seems to line up, and she has the talent and the personality. So let's not say no. But yeah, absolutely, keep your doors open is definitely a moral of the story. And things could happen.
That's great. So going back to the interview questions now, Louie. So you sound very, very passionate about what you do. Are there a few things, or maybe the top 3 things, or that really excite you, like some things that you really enjoy about what you do?
I really love seeing something come to fruition, like a festival, you know what I mean? Or a big nightclub event, or an artist getting some traction. It just feels so cool to be a part of something that, wow, this is huge, that either it takes a team or it's all on my shoulders. Either of the two, it's just fun to be a part of something sometimes so big, like festivals that has 25, 30,000 people perhaps, and you're sitting there and you might be on stage or in the crowd, and you're just looking at thousands of people enjoying this thing, and you're like, I was one of 3 or 4 people that were integral to planning this and putting this together. It's such a cool feeling to see everybody enjoy that. It's just sharing that feeling. Even being on podcasts or writing my book or speaking, I'm sharing information. And for me, I'm not selling anything to anybody. I don't have a new book to sell or get my course now. It's cool to say, here's all the experiences I have, and here's some things that you could use. And it may not even be in music. It could just be your flower shop, but you might take some of these golden nuggets or an idea and use that to your advantage or to your career. And it's just so fun to see other people just maybe learn something and take it and run with it.
That sounds great, Louis. So the next thing I wanted to ask you, the flip side, right? Every role I've interviewed, there is always some things that are not as exciting. So let's say I call them challenges. So what are some of the challenges one will face in your job?
Yeah, in my career, being entertainment industry, there's always a billion challenges, of course. It's very shark infested waters. There's a lot of ego to work with, and not just the celebrities. It could just be, label owners. It could be nightclub owners, things like that. I think one of the biggest challenges I have is, as an example, and I don't have too many nightclub clients anymore. It's a lot of festivals and music, which is great. But, you get some of those nightclub owners that, desperately need help. Maybe their nights aren't going so well. They're not doing social media very well. And they give me the call and say, hey, we have a great product. We need to do the proper marketing. We still do radio and flyering, and it's just not working. And they get it. They know what they're doing is wrong. And they know social media is where their customers obviously are, and they're not doing it properly. So they want help, which is great. And I sit down with them and we go over some things. We do some little projects here, and we start to do the ways that I've been doing it and building $1 million brands. And then the challenge comes when, and it could just be generalizing, but the nightclub owner's ego steps in their own way, right? They know better. This is how it used to work, Louis. This is what I know about Facebook ads because I Googled it once. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they really get in their own way. And it becomes a daily, a debate on, is what you're doing better than what I would do myself? What, why really should I pay you? And to me, it's like, well, what you were doing wasn't working. So there's your answer there. And technically for me, I'm only one guy and, 90,000 of you out there. I don't have to work with you. It's okay. You can do what you want to do. And that's fine then. Let's just cut ties. We're still buddies. Go your own way, hit boost if you think that's all you need to do, and go for it. And of course that doesn't work. And then, I quickly get the email back saying, I don't want to do this. It's too much work and it's not working well. And I'm, oh, really? You don't, right? You don't want to do it. Well, our relationship is now over. And that's just a challenge that I hit, every so often. And it's something that obviously I'm trying to help as many people as I can succeed, right? It's to me, it's no competition. They're not competing with me. They're a client, and I don't take on, let's say nightclubs in the same city. So I'm not competing with myself. So I really am genuinely trying to make them as much money as possible. And it sometimes feels like, guys, why do I have to bang my head against the wall to make you $1 million? Just, let me show you what I know. You make your decisions, and you already know the answers. Don't put your ego in your own way here. And that does happen often enough. That becomes a challenge, right? But it's just part of the business, I think.
Yeah, thanks for being open about that. So, Louis, now I want to switch gears. So, someone listening to this so far, they say, this sounds really interesting. Might be a career that I do want to pursue. So, how does one go about becoming a music and nightlife marketer? Where do they get started? What is the process?
So if we're going to talk about, let's say, nightlife and events, so we'll keep music to the side for a second. We'll split them up into music being you want to either be a musician or help musicians and help record labels. So put that aside for 1 second. Let's go with the event side of it. You want to help nightclubs grow. You want to book your own events. You want to work with festivals. So to me, the first thing you need to do is actually, really get into the business. It's one thing to go party at a nightclub and then give, guys like me your suggestions. That's consumer feedback, and it's very important. But on the other side of that line there's some extremely crazy things that go on and very intricate details you need to know on running events. So I would, literally pull the intern kind of move and want to volunteer for the nightclub owner or the festival, or work with a promoter, be a sub promoter. I'm going to bring my 10 or 20 friends in every week because I'm in college right now. So can I work with you? Don't have to pay me, for the first few months. Just, I want to bring people, and everybody's very receptive to more bodies in their venue. So if you're somebody that's, cool, easygoing, and you just want to learn, you're going to have some success. But when you're doing that, you really need to pay attention to how things work, how everything at a nightclub, for example, from the doorman all the way up to the bartenders and the DJ, and how the promoters and hosts work. You need to really realize the different parts to that moving machine, so that you can take over eventually or create your own event somewhere else and understand that. You have to really manage people very well. You're building a list of consumers, but you're also building a list of industry contacts. And as you grow, you need stronger industry contacts. If you're going to start booking Lil Jon, LMFAO, Lady Gaga's, you need to have relationships with those agencies. It's one thing where the venue is a beautiful venue, but, agents a lot of times want to know who's the promoter, because those are the people who are our point guy and are going to take care of our artists. You're going to make sure that, somebody's there to pick them up when the flight lands, and they're going to have their meals like they said they wanted in their rider. And even though the venue's beautiful, is the technical rider done properly? That promoter is that head person that takes care of all of that. So many, many times agencies and talent management want to book with the promoter, sometimes more than the venue. I've seen beautiful venue not get the artist, and sort of a half venue that maybe isn't as beautiful because the promoter was there, they got the artist instead because they trusted the promoter. So it's a trust game, and you definitely have to learn as much as you can. So I would jump into just volunteering and interning with, a head promoter or something like that. So, and same with the music side. If you're a musician or want to be a record label or want to help record labels, again, you need to understand, where's your piece in the machine? Are you a marketer? So are you going to learn Facebook marketing and how to get their songs played on Spotify or distributed and on the radio? You got to learn that. So do a lot of research, and then literally volunteer or get some slow musicians or up and comers that are nobodies, and start to work with them for free. Get some things under your belt so you learn at the same time, right? And there's something to be said about that free work. It's like you can't really, music business in college, they only teach so much. When you're in there doing it yourself, then that's when the real stuff happens, and you really learn very quickly what works and what doesn't.
Just a follow-up question to that. for this career, is there any type of certifications or degrees or courses that someone needs to get
No,
started?
I mean, yeah, I think in everything entertainment industry, you can always go to school for, like I mentioned, music business, marketing, 101 and all those, right? But you need to be an entrepreneur. You need to know because things change so fast. So anybody that's come out of school, even in the last couple of years for music business or marketing, they may not have the full in-depth knowledge of, for example, intricate Facebook advertising. You may have some very basic knowledge, something that you could Google. Now, there's nothing wrong with going to school so you get your mindset into a business mindset. You learn a lot of the basics and a little bit of advanced stuff on how things work. You may want to take courses or go to school for music royalties. That's a very complicated, intricate piece of that pie, how royalties are split up and how mechanical rights and sync rights work. Can you learn that on your own? Absolutely. Can you learn that by being an intern? Absolutely. Can you learn it in school? Absolutely. So, it depends on your path and how you learn. Do you want to take 2 to 4 years to learn that, but then, jump into a record label? Sure, that is a path to get in. Sometimes you get hired out of school. But for the most part, if somebody says, well, I went to school for kinesiology and I don't want to go back to school, can I pivot my career? You sure can. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. You just have to be good at it, though, and learn it. So you need to get in, read books, get on YouTube, get on Facebook, test it, work with some musicians and some small clubs to get it under your belt. So you do not absolutely need a certification or go to school for it whatsoever in this industry. Does it help? Sometimes. And sometimes it wastes your time. So it really depends on you.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So once someone gets started, Louis, is there like an ideal career path or where they can be in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, like I mean, an actual timeline. I think everybody's a little bit different depending on your hustle. And there's also the story of that career basement DJ or garage band that never makes it, but they're still fantastic at what they do. Same with that small record label that I've seen 20 years later, still a tiny record label in their own home and not really making much money. And I think it comes down to your hustle. This industry is shark infested. It is very, very tough to cut through, but you need that hustle mentality, right? So I've been doing this for 20 years, but I was promoting massive nightclubs. I wasn't even legally able to get into the nightclubs. In Canada, as you know, 19 in Ontario is the legal drinking age. And at 17, 18, I was already starting to throw my own events. So, but I hustled like crazy and I was very personable, which is huge in this industry. I was able to forge relationships fast. So, at a young age, I kind of figured that out for myself. So now I'm here, I'm a speaker and an author and a global marketer. And that's 20 years later, I'm still in my 30s. And is that a quick move? I mean, I did national TV. Yeah, I think it was pretty fast, but maybe people can do it faster than me. And other people who don't have that hustle will do it slower than me. So I think that's the timeline people need to consider. How much drive and hustle do you have? Do you stay up till 3 in the morning and get up at 8? It depends. It depends on who you are and how quick you can make those phone calls and break open those doors. Like I mentioned earlier, it's you want to get on television. Well, how do you get in? It's very locked down to, we have our people and there's other people who are laid off that need jobs too. How do you get in? So you need to make relationships. You need to make phone calls, get on Twitter, schmooze with the right people, get to the networking events and just be that person that people want to work with. A lot of people buy into people more than ideas. And I think that happens in a lot of industries. It's similar here.
Thanks for being totally honest and transparent. I think there's something people need to hear, right? I think the common element in the last answer was the word hustle. To get to where you are today, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of risk, a lot of hard work. So thanks for being honest. The one question I do want to ask, technology is affecting every business. When I think of events, I'm thinking of now virtual reality, I'm thinking of live streaming. So this is more of an industry question, Louis. So what do you think new trends in technology, would they have an impact on your industry or would there not be? And if so, how?
Yeah, I mean, obviously technology in the marketing sense has been fantastic for someone who knows how to use it very well. It's a little bit more involved. Like I mentioned the word hustle before, back in the day, a nightclub or an event can just write a check to radio for the most part, to generalize and make it sound easy. The radio station producers created this ad for you. You gave them a couple of points. They did the ad and then it ran. And then people came, right? So it was a lot easier. Nowadays with social media and using that technology, as we all know now, I think we all get it. There's a little bit more time involved because you have more of a two-way conversation on several platforms. But this is the new way to do business and new way to do marketing. And it's working very well. Myself, my B2B is 100% done on social media. That's how I get my clients and interact. And all of my clients really have changed over and eliminated pretty much all of the old ways of doing marketing, especially because their consumers are Generation Z and millennial. Most of them cut out radio, flyers, promoters as well. And they're also 100% digital and social media. So that today is obviously what's happening. So for the future, I have been using and can see 360 video and virtual reality being a part of the experience. As an example, in our festival next year, I'm looking forward to having a sponsored area where you can get, let's say it as an example, the VR glasses, and there's a 2-minute clip of a 360 video from the stage. You get to see the 30,000 people in front of you, the DJ right beside you, and we shoot that couple-minute clip. But when you're on the ground, you can experience that by, getting into the booth and putting these VR glasses on and just experiencing what it's like to be on stage, which is kind of cool, right? Something many people don't get to have. And so that VR technology is something I like to use. Same with 360 imagery or videos as advertising. It's catchy and it looks great. All that kind of stuff is what's coming up. And I think people like to experiment with it. Even augmented reality. I would love to have some augmented reality in a club where you walk in and you put on these glasses and there's things that pop out now, not just the cool visuals and the band playing, but there's more. There's more of a 3D look, right? And I think that's really cool. To me, what's different from the past 30 years in a nightclub? You have your stage, your DJ, your band, your bar on the right over there or the left, and the doorman at the front. It's the same thing. You may have different visuals and it looks cool, but it's the same concept, right? There's nothing new technically. And then a lot of these venues wonder why the kids nowadays want to go to the pizza place or stay home and watch Netflix or play Xbox instead, right? They're looking for different experiences. They don't go out to the nightclub 4 times a week. They may go out once a week or once every 2 weeks, right? Because really, they're not offering anything new other than an old 80s concept when you think about it, right? So putting these new technologies in could be something that allows people to say, wow, that's different. I'll try it. And if they like it, then you've got a hit there. If they don't, you test and move on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It does make sense. I mean, sometimes you find that the disruption comes slow. Sometimes it comes very fast. The key thing that you mentioned is no matter what happens, if you can learn to leverage it, you need to learn to use it for your benefit. So that's what you have done. So that's a very good insight. So the last question, Louis, is what advice, or is there a single piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to get into this field? I know you've shared a lot of things here, but if there is one thing that you want to drive into them, what would that be?
I would say, well, you already mentioned the hustle, right? And to break your own doors, which is pretty obvious in many industries, but especially entertainment. But the one thing I'd love for people to just remember is to celebrate the small wins, right? Everybody has the aspirations to be on the major record label and to be touring, in stadiums or, running their own massive festival. But, that could be an end goal, right? And if you don't hit that in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, it's okay, but not to be frustrated because the industry's really built to frustrate you and put roadblocks so that only the best of the best make it. So celebrate those small wins. You know what I mean? When everything from I put out this post on Facebook and I got 100, views on the video, and that's something small that gets me towards my goal. Be consistent every day. Don't just give up after 2 weeks and it's like, well, I guess this isn't working. I don't have a major label deal and I have 2 great tracks that I put out and 8 people listened to it. That sucked and I'm out. Your music might be fantastic, but there's so much noise out there. You need to be consistent every day. You need to create a strategy in your head, right? You have to know I'm not going to just drop my track on Facebook and magically it's going to be picked up. Create a strategy. Do a couple of posts leading up to it. Maybe throw some dollars in ads to get the right target audience, right? Be consistent and putting it out there. And, and that's going to help. And then be happy with, wow, I got a few hundred people viewing my music or my event. I got 50 people in my small nightclub event I did this Saturday. So at a festival, it's a small win. Celebrate those small wins so you can be happy on the journey as well. And that's something you really need to think about. Otherwise, you can be very unhappy until you reach that goal at the end, if you get there.
Yeah, absolutely. That thanks for sharing that insight, Louis. It was a great pleasure to have you on the podcast. You sound like you have a very passionate, exciting career. I'm sure people listening to this have picked up some great insights for getting into your career. So thank you very much.
And thank you for having me and having this podcast. And again, thanks to everybody out there listening.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, folks, for listening to this episode of the Career Matters podcast. I have written a brief summary of this interview as part of a blog post on careermatters.com. If you liked what you heard, feel free to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Stitcher. And for more content, ideas, tips, resources, go to careermatters.com. If you enjoyed this episode and also learned something new, feel free to post a comment or review. And if you really loved it, definitely go ahead and share the episode on your social media feeds and amongst your network. Until next time, this is Nisar Ahmed, your host for the Career Matters podcast. Thank you.